Hi guys, I hope you are doing perfect. Welcome to the Proofreadeasy English learning platform. In today's class, we will study verb tenses. Before we start with the main content, you need to recall a few things. An English sentence usually follows the subject plus verb plus object pattern. Subject, verb and object are elements of a sentence. And in case you need more detailed guidance on the elements of a sentence, you should visit the sentence section of this channel. A verb can either be a single verb, the main verb, the finite verb, a linking verb, or an entire verb string in which we have auxiliaries and modals attached to the main verb. A verb has three forms: a base form, which is called the infinitive form, the past form, and the past participle form. Verbs can also take the form of present participles and gerunds. Gerunds are verbs used as nouns. However, present participles are combined with auxiliaries to form tenses. Similarly, past participles are also combined with auxiliaries to form tenses. And same goes with the third verbal, which is the infinitive. An infinitive is the unconjugated form of a verb. If you want to go into further details, you can visit the verb section of this channel. Keep in mind that forming tenses is a technical job to do. I would personally suggest you to memorize the formula for each verb so that it becomes easy for you to form verb tenses. Let's start with the first tense. The first tense is present simple. The formula is subject followed by an auxiliary verb do and the main verb in its infinitive or the root form. Now, before we go into detail of these formulas, I would want to give you some background information. Subject is an element of a sentence. It is the element that is performing the action. It's a noun phrase. In case you need more information, you can visit the sentence section of this channel where detailed guidance is given on individual elements of a sentence. An auxiliary verb is a helping verb that is combined with the main verbs to form tenses. The verb be, have, and do, and all their conjugated forms can be used as auxiliaries. You can find detailed guidance on auxiliary verbs in the verb section of this channel. The main verb is usually the finite verb, which functions as the verb element in a sentence. Entire verb strings in which the main verb is combined with auxiliaries and modals also function as verb strings and verb elements in a sentence. In the case of simple present tense, the auxiliary verb is do and the auxiliary verb is being used in its root form. Same is the case with the main verb, which is being used in its root form. There are a few things to remember when forming simple present tense: that this auxiliary will be implied in case of affirmative sentences and will not be explicitly written except in case of emphatic statements, in which the purpose is to add emphasis. In case of third person singular, an s or an es will be added to the auxiliary. Look at the example of a simple present affirmative sentence. I go. I is the subject, do is supposed to be the auxiliary, but since it's an affirmative sentence, the auxiliary has been removed, and go is the main verb in its root form. Let me tell you that go is the root form, went is its past form, and gone is its past participle form. Going is its gerund and present participle form. Now, if this is an interrogative sentence, the pattern will be auxiliary, subject, main verb. Do I go? And if it were a third person singular, for example, in case of third person singular, the sentence would be he goes, and es will be added to the main verb. Likewise, an es would be added to the auxiliary in case of a third person singular in an interrogative sentence. Does he go? Do will become does because of the third person singular. A simple present tense is used for actions that are general or that are happening all the time or happening only in the present moment or in cases involving a factual truth. For example, I work at the school. Now, this is something that is happening every day. John drives a taxi. Driving a taxi is John's profession and it's happening almost every day. Similarly, he lives in New York. Now, this again reflects a permanent residence in New York. That is why this thought is being expressed in the simple present tense. The earth revolves around the sun. This is a factual truth. Therefore, it will be expressed in the simple present tense. Now, let us see the simple present continuous tense. See the difference in the simple present tense and the simple present continuous tense. In that tense, the auxiliary was do. In this tense, the auxiliary is be, which will be conjugated. When conjugated, the auxiliary verb be can take the forms am, are, is, was, were, being, been. For example, I am, they are, you are, he is, she is, he was, she was, they were, we were. Being is the present participle form of the verb to be, and been is the past participle form of the verb to be. Being is one of the auxiliaries in the present continuous tense, and been is one of the auxiliaries in the present perfect tense. The main verb in the present continuous tense is a verb in its present participle form, that is the root form of the verb with the suffix ing added to it. So when forming a present continuous tense, keep in mind that we should first write the subject followed by the conjugated form of the verb to be and the present participle form of the main verb. There are a few things to remember. If the main verb is following a CVC pattern, we need to double the last letter. For example, I, here is the subject, am is the conjugated form of the verb to be for the first person singular I, and running is the present participle form of the root verb run. But since run follows a CVC pattern, that is a consonant followed by a stressed vowel U followed by a consonant N, we need to double the last letter. We need to add N again and then add the suffix ing so that run becomes running. I am running in the park. This is subject, auxiliary am, and the present participle running. There are a few more spelling rules. If the main verb ends in IE letters, we need to change this IE to Y. Like in this example, die becomes dying. Look at this sentence. Subject he, a third person singular, is the conjugated form of the verb to be for the third person singular he, and dying, the present participle form of the verb, root verb die. Another rule to remember is that if the last three letters of the main verb follow the vowel plus consonant plus e pattern, we should remove this e and add the suffix ing to make its present participle. As in this example, exercise is a vowel followed by a consonant s followed by e. E is removed and ing is added instead. So exercise becomes exercising. I am exercising. Subject, auxiliary, present participle. We should use present continuous tenses to express an action that is currently taking place, an ongoing action, and an action planned for the future. This is specific to the English language, that actions planned for the future can in some cases be expressed in the present continuous tense. I am going to take you to the hospital tomorrow. So this is an action planned for tomorrow, but this has been expressed in the present continuous tense. You can see this subject, conjugated form of the verb to be, and present participle form of the root verb go, that is going. To take you to the hospital tomorrow. Now let's see the present perfect tense. Now this tense has a subject, as is the case in all the tenses, and the auxiliary verb here is have, and the main verb is a past participle. Keep in mind that the main verb in a present perfect tense is a past participle. It's not the past form of the verb. A verb has three forms: the root form, which is the V1 form, then the past form, which is the V2 form, and then comes the past participle or the V3 form. The V2 and the V3 forms are entirely different things, although in most cases, especially in case of regular verbs, they appear to be the same. Is represented in the past. Keep in mind that an action which is connected both to the present and the past is represented in the present perfect tense. So when you're narrating an experience or a change or a situation that is continuing, you will use a present perfect tense. This is important to understand, that this continuation is not in the form of an ongoing action, but something that is connected to the past and is existing in the present as well. For example, I have seen London. So this is something that I did in the past, but now I can tell to everyone that I've seen this place. Now this is something that is going to be part of my life, and I'm going to have this experience to share for the rest of my life. Look at the structure. The subject I, the auxiliary have, and past participle form of the root verb see is seen. The root form is see, the past form is saw, and the past participle form is seen. We have used the past participle form in this tense. I have seen London. Mary has eaten her lunch. Mary has. Has is the conjugated form of the auxiliary verb have for the first person singular noun, and eaten is the past participle form of the root verb eat. Eat, ate, eaten. Ate is the past form, eaten is the past participle form. We have used the past participle form. They have moved to the next bus stop. They have the auxiliary for third person plural they. Moved is the past participle form of the root verb move. In case of move, both the past form and the past participle forms are same, that is move, moved, moved. See how this event is connected both to the present and the past. They were not at the bus stop in the past, but then they moved to the next bus stop. This is the next bus stop. So this is something connected both to the past. See how all of these examples show how these events were connected both to the past and the present. Mary has eaten her lunch. This was something she was doing, and then she completed her lunch. They have moved to the next bus stop. This is something they started in the past. They started moving to the next bus stop, and now they are at the bus stop. So this is something that is connected both to the past and the present. Keep in mind that in the present perfect tense, for is used to talk about a period of time, and since is used to talk about a point of time in the past. Like when I say I have chased him for years. Now this is a period of time. I am telling that it has been years that I have been chasing him. Now look at this example. I have not talked to him since yesterday. So this is a point of time when we stopped talking, or I stopped talking to someone. If in this example I was to introduce a point of time, I can write I have chased him since years. So that would mark a point in time when this process began. But this is a general statement. I have chased him for years. So this is a period of time I am talking about. Now let's see the present perfect continuous tense. Now that we have seen the three forms of the present tense, this I hope will become very easy for you to understand. A subject followed by, now look at the verb string. The auxiliary verb has or have, the auxiliary verb been. I just told you that been is the past participle form of the verb to be, and it is used in forming the present continuous tense, and the main verb in its present participle form. This tense will be used to express actions that just stopped or were continuing until this point. Look at this example. I have been working. Subject have for the first person singular pronoun I, been the past participle form of the verb to be, which remains unconjugated in all cases, and the present participle form of the main verb. So work becomes working. Similarly, he has been sleeping. So this is something that is continuing until now. He is still asleep. Similarly, I have been working. So I have been working until this point in time. So I am working until now. These are actions that are continuing until this point. First, we have the simple past tense, in which we have two possible options: a subject followed by the simple past form, or the subject followed by the auxiliary did and the root form, not the past form. This past form is not same as the past participle form. This is the V2 form of the verb. When you do not add the auxiliary did, you will use the past form. But if you add the auxiliary did, then you will use the base form, not the past form. The base form means the root form of the verb, or the bare infinitive form of the verb. A simple past tense is used for actions that took place in the past, and in case of affirmative or positive sentences, all you have to do is write the subject and add the past form of the main verb, or alternatively, especially in case of emphatic statements in which you want to add emphasis, you can use this, you can follow this pattern: the subject with the auxiliary did and the base form of the verb. In case of negative sentences, the pattern is subject plus the auxiliary verb did, then you have to add this not, because this is a negative statement, and then the base form of the verb, because this auxiliary did has been used in this sentence. And in case of interrogative sentences, the auxiliary did comes first, followed by the subject, then the main verb in its root form, because we are using the auxiliary did. Now look at these examples. I went to the school. I is the subject, went is the second form or the V2 form or the past form of the root verb go. I went to the school. I did go to the school. This is an expression of emphasis. I did go. Did is the auxiliary and go is the root or the base form of the verb. In case of a negative statement, the subject comes followed by the auxiliary did, not, because it's a negative statement, we add not here, and then the base form, because this auxiliary has been used in this sentence, we will retain the base form of the verb go. For an interrogative sentence, the auxiliary comes first. Did is the auxiliary, followed by the subject, followed by the root form of the verb. Now let's take a look at the past continuous tense. The past continuous tense is used for actions that were going on at a particular point in the past. There were actions taking place in the past. A past continuous tense will have the subject followed by the auxiliary verb to be, which will be conjugated in its past tense form was or were. You see, the auxiliary verb to be is conjugated in different forms like is, am, are, was, were, been, being, and was and were are its conjugated forms in the past tense. I was, they were. See, this is how the conjugation takes place. Then comes the main verb, which is a present participle, that is root form of the verb with the base form of the verb with ing as added as the suffix. At this point, you should note the similarity between the structures of the present continuous tense and the past continuous tense. A present continuous tense had the subject plus the auxiliary form to be conjugated in the present tense, is, am, are, like I am, he is, they are, and then we had the present participle. This was same. The main verb was a present participle in the present tense, and it's a present participle in the past tense as well. So the difference is the verb to be conjugated in the present and the past tense. In that case it was is, am, are, and in this case it is was or were. This is an important comparison to make at this point. Look at these examples. I was preparing the meal. Subject, the conjugated form of the verb to be was in the past form, and the present participle form of the verb prepare is preparing, and the present participle form of the root verb prepare, that is preparing. He was testing. They were, was, were, conjugation. They were going, present participle. Now this is an important point to note here, that a clause in the simple past tense and a clause in the past continuous. We have already seen the simple past tense and we have already seen the past continuous tense. They can be combined to form complex sentences. A complex sentence is a sentence that has a dependent and an independent clause. There are two clauses in a complex sentence. One of them is independent, the other one is dependent. You can also say that one is independent and there can be one or more dependent clauses attached to it. Keep in mind that a subordinating conjunction is used to join a dependent clause with an independent clause. When and while are being used as subordinating conjunctions. A subordinating conjunction comes in front of a dependent clause. This means that what follows a subordinating conjunction is a dependent clause. I was talking when you interrupted me. I was talking. Subject, the past form of the verb to be, the conjugated form of the verb to be in the past tense was, present participle talking. So this is a past continuous tense. When is the subordinating conjunction? You interrupted me. You is the subject. Interrupt, the second form or the past form is interrupted, which is the format of a simple present tense. Me is the object in this case. This is the independent clause, this is the subordinating conjunction, and this is the dependent clause. I was talking when you interrupted me. In the second example, we have the subordinating conjunction at the beginning of the sentence, which means that I was talking becomes the dependent clause. See how the dependent clause is separated from the independent clause by a comma. This is a standard punctuation rule. When the dependent clause comes first in the sentence, it is separated by a comma from the independent clause. So the sentence becomes, while I was talking, you interrupted me. Another important point to note here is that when is used in front of a shorter action, whereas while is used in front of a longer action. So since talking is a longer action compared to interrupted, which is a shorter action, the longer action is preceded by while, whereas the shorter action is preceded by when. Now let's take a look at the past perfect tense. A past perfect tense is used for an action that has been completed in the past. The format is subject, the auxiliary verb have, which will be conjugated in its past form had. the main verb will be represented in its past participle form. You can again make a comparison with the present perfect tense, in which we had the subject followed by the auxiliary conjugated in its present form have or has, and the main verb was also in the past participle form. So for a sentence in the past perfect tense, like I had completed my work in the noon, I is the subject, had is the conjugated form of the verb have in the past form, in the past tense form, and completed is the past participle form of the root verb complete. If this were a present perfect tense, this would have been I have completed my work. So the only difference here is of this auxiliary have, which in the case of present perfect tense was conjugated to has or have, and in the case of past perfect tense this has been conjugated to had. I had gone to my uncle's house. The root form here is go, the past form is went, but the past participle form gone has been used. I had gone to my uncle's house. They had eaten their lunch. Finally, we have the past perfect continuous tense. In case of a present perfect tense, the action was continuing until the present time. But in case of a past perfect continuous tense, the format is subject plus the auxiliary verb have conjugated in the simple past tense had. This is same in the case of past perfect tense, and the auxiliary verb be in its past participle form been. I earlier told you that the past participle form of be is been, and the main verb in its present participle form. Now see how ing forms or present participle forms are being used in progressive or continuous tenses, and past participle forms are being used in the perfect tenses. I had been working in the office. So this is some point in the past, but at that point in time the action was still going on. So I was working at that time in the office. He had been talking about this. Now if it were a present perfect continuous tense, it would have been I have been working in the office. He has been talking about this. See how the verb have is differently conjugated in the case of present and past perfect continuous tenses. I have, they have, I had, they had, he had been talking about this, I have been talking. Now when I say I have been talking about this, I'm using the present perfect continuous tense, but when I say he had been or I had been talking about this, I am using the past perfect continuous tense. Now let's come to the future tense. The future simple tense is used to express an action in the future. It follows the subject plus auxiliary plus main verb pattern. The auxiliary in this case is will, and this remains unconjugated, and the main verb is represented in its root form. Technically will is a modal verb, and modal verbs do not change forms with a change in voice or tense. So when I say I will take you to the hospital, I am introducing this sentence with the subject I, the invariable form of the auxiliary verb will, which means that this will remain unconjugated in all circumstances, and the base form or the infinitive form of the verb take. So in case of a prediction, like something goes well, it will go well. See how it is the hollow subject, will in its invariable form or unconjugated form, and go is the root form. It will go well. If you remember from the previous slides, the past simple tense was subject plus the auxiliary did and the base form of the verb. In this case the auxiliary is will. Let's move on to the future continuous tense. Like any other continuous tense, this has a subject and a verb string, and the combination is auxiliary verb will invariable, that is, it is going to remain unconjugated in all circumstances. And in case of a future continuous tense, the auxiliary verb be will remain unconjugated, and the main verb will be represented in its present participle form, which we all know is the base form with a suffix ing added to it. The future continuous tense represents an action that will be going on or continuing at a point of time in future. For example, I will be going out tomorrow. So probably I have a time in mind, the people I'm going to go with or the place I'm going to go to. I have all of these things in mind and I'm saying I will be going out tomorrow. See how the pattern subject, auxiliary verb will unconjugated, be unconjugated, will be will remain unconjugated. Now these two auxiliaries, this part of the string will remain unconjugated and the root form will be converted to its present participle form. In this case the root form is go and the present participle form going has been used in its place. Then we have the future perfect tense. A future perfect tense represents an action that will have completed by a particular point of time in future. Now the format is subject, the auxiliary verb will invariable, the auxiliary verb have invariable. Have and will not be conjugated in this case, in the case of future perfect tense, and the main verb will be in its past participle form. So I will have reached the office by tomorrow, by then, by some point of time in future. See how this is invariable, will always be part of this verb string. Reach is the root verb, reached is its past participle form. I will have ran through the bridge. Will and have will remain unconjugated. So if the subject changes, like they will have, she will have, he will have, I will have, the past participle form reached. See how this will have remains unconjugated. Finally, we have the future perfect continuous tense. This represents an action that will be continuing at a particular point of time in future. This follows the pattern subject, the invariable auxiliary will, the invariable auxiliary have, and the past participle form of the auxiliary verb be, that is been, and the main verb will be represented in its present participle form. So he will have been cooking the food. He subject, will invariable, have invariable, the verb to be in its past participle form been, and the main verb in its present participle form, or what we call loosely referred to as the ing form of the verb. Cook becomes cooking in this case. If you compare the future perfect continuous tense with the past perfect continuous tense, you would notice that the first auxiliary was had, the second auxiliary was not there, the third auxiliary was there, and the main verb was also in its present participle form. So this sentence, if expressed in the past perfect continuous tense, would become, but when it is expressed in the future perfect continuous tense, it becomes he will have been cooking the food. Thank you for watching. If you like this lecture, please like and subscribe to this channel, as this helps the Proofread Easy English learning platform in preparing more videos like this. You can also visit us at www.proofreadeasy.com.